It's witchy time. Yes, you got it right. We are going to be dressing a witch today from the top of her hat to the tip of her toes. Oh, I'm so excited. I must admit, creating costumes is my all-time favorite process. So I'm ready. I hope you are. Before I filmed, I had wet felted her hat. I love to add little frilly things and dress up hats. I just don't ever typically leave them bare. I like to add little details. I am a huge fan of everything nature and forest. So as you can see, we're building a forest themed type witch. Being inspired by nature, I often go outside and forage and then dry out things and use them in my creations as well. All of these are dried bits of stems where the seed pods were from different flowers that I had foraged. This particularly was a hibiscus. But remember, when you go foraging, you need to do research to make sure that what you're foraging is safe for yourself, your pets, or to be in your home. It always happens. I already have paint on my hands. So these needed a pop of color. I am dry painting on this color. You take a little bit of dabs on your paintbrush, then wipe them off with a dry cloth, and then just lightly brush on the color. I think this will look perfect in her hat. At this point, I wasn't really sure what I was going to use this for. I had a few ideas. Of course, definitely later in the video, you'll see what I used it for. Here, I just snip a hole, add the flour, and then later add a dab of glue. Throughout this whole clothing process, or costuming process, I hope you get inspired to try new things and use different things. Of course, here I'm adding the hibiscus. I will later seal it with some probably Mod Podge or something. Oh, the madness begins. This is where I decide what colors or textures or fabrics I'm going to use. But I love it. And I decided to use the frilly bits on her hat to kind of be a guide. And of course, this is where you rummage, you pull out all your bits and bobs just to look for the right thing. When you place everything on top of each other like this, it kind of lets your mind see how the colors might play with each other and help you decide what you want or what to get rid of. Example, I replaced the yellow with the gold. Time to get this witch a shirt. I cover the whole torso first, and of course the back. Front, back. Covering the arms is the last thing I do. I start out with a multi-needle to tack down fiber quickly, and then I often switch to a single needle. Gotta love that sound of a single needle crunch. You can use your hands to often get rid of bumps and just help smooth out the fiber. I love making bell-shaped sleeves. I always have. So you will see me switching and using different tools again. Different tools, different purposes. The way that fiber is processed also helps in different ways too. This fiber has been processed into a bat, which I like to use bats for clothes. Our hands are fabulous tools, I must say. I'm doing this to create a defined edge. It's going to be the edge of the sleeve. I repeat this process over and over until I'm satisfied with what the edge looks like. Well, I realized I have too much sleeve. I need to remove some of this. Another handy dandy tool for you to have is a seam ripper. To start, you just want to do some light taps, no aggressive felting yet. You will notice that I am guiding the fiber where I want it to go by slightly moving it with the needle. Not overdoing it though, because you may bend or break your needle. Teeny tiny taps, gentle felting to refine this cuff. Gotta give it the rub down. Get rid of those bumps. Okay, she told me she wanted some striped tights, which by the way, I think is going to be rather fabulous. Once again, I am using my needle to direct the fiber where I want it to go, but be gentle. Don't want to bend the needles. Well, looky there. She was right. These tights are so fabulous. I love them. I think she's digging her look. She's looking pretty happy. Okay, now on to another fun part. We're moving on to the shoes. I like to use this method to create a base for the bottom of the foot for a couple reasons. One, because I really like the look it gives. Secondly, to correct any measurement issues. Okay, now we are creating a boot, which I made the pattern off the doll's foot. Doing some simple sewing to stitch up in the right places. Here I want to sew all the way up to that bend right there and stop. You want to leave that little flap open. It will be easier to get the boot on. I know, because the first time I did it, it was kind of hard. Now just sew in the foot padding and the boot will be ready to put on. My creative helper has arrived in the background to help me put on the boots. I use a type of fabric glue for this, but if you do that, I must tell you, you better work pretty quickly so that glue doesn't dry up on you while you're putting the boot on. I will throw in a stitch around the ankle and this part of the boot is done. Using the dry brush painting again to give it a little age and depth to the boots and also to cover up some boo-boos. I really do like to use aging and stuff. I just like that technique. I like things to look aged, but I had also got some glue on there, and so I thought just a little bit would help that. Her boots are made for walking. On our flowers again, and this is me putting a sealant over top of it. I generally use Mod Podge. I also decided to add a bead on the bottom of this. Once I added the bead, I knew what this was going to be. So I am using just a simple running stitch so that way you can pull and gather the fabric together. This is going to be her underskirt, and I can't tell you how excited I am about this fabric. She's a witch after all, and I think this fabric is magical, how it changes colors and the light and the texture. I just think it's wonderful. I found that fabric probably about 2 years ago, and I've been waiting this long to find the perfect project for it. But look how fabulous that looks already. Woo-hoo-hoo. Okay, so I might be getting a little too excited, but I told you this is my favorite part. Okay, here's the top skirt going on. Super excited. I must say, I'm kind of jealous of her look here. This is a super easy way to make a cape, and all this is craft felt, and I pull it and stretch it to kind of make it worn and not so square looking. Look. Of using this ribbon, but I don't think so. I think this, what we used on the hat, will look much better. You use an awl or something sharp to poke holes, and then you run your ribbon or thread or whatever you're using through the holes. And then, of course, on either side, because you leave a tail, you can cinch it together and tie on a bow. The flower ended up being her staff. And look at her in all her magical glory. And see how simple that cape was and how cute? Ah, a true forest witch right here. Oh my goodness. She could also double for a fairy as well, or a fairy godmother. I hope that you all are inspired to go create some witches. Thank you so much. See you next time.